So as it turns out, I built the Jewish third temple. I'm the high priest in the order of Melchizedek, wherever the fuck that is. I'm the high priest, right? So like, I asked God. I've been talking to God like, I don't know, 25 years or something, like daily, like completely tutored and stuff, right? So like, I was asking God. One time I asked him, if you ask him a good question, he answers. You have to do an offering for him to answer. You got to show love. Like put love into a delightful comic, put a smile on his face, right? So like, if the question is really good, like, oh, he'll like to answer this. I said, hey, Mr. God, what do people think you care about but you don't? And I opened the book and it says Solomon had 300 concubines. And I back up a second. It said Solomon had 700 wives and 300 concubines. I go, oh, that's interesting. So that's what God don't care about, right? So like, makes sense. I mean, because like, let's test your theology. How do you reconcile all this shit, right? So like, as a matter of fact, Ira, my Jewish boss, said, food is love to a Jew. Okay, apparently they give food. That's how they give love. So like, anyway, just imagine the high priest is like giving food to God, and apparently he'd put up with this. God said the animal sacrifices were primitive. Okay, so as a high priest, you gotta reconcile all this shit, right? I asked God, is the world perfectly is there perfect justice in the world? He said, you calling me lazy? Oh, hell no, I ain't calling you lazy. Further on, he said, I asked him again, and he's like, oh, hell no, there's not perfect justice. There's plenty, but the Bible says there's plenty of justice, right? So as a matter of fact, it says he disciplines his sons, or the ones he cares about. So anyway, if you're familiar with theology from Catholics, mortal sin is what brings you away from God, right? So if you're on good terms with God, hey, you Catholic priests, why don't you worry yourself? I think I'm on pretty good terms with Mr. God. You worry about your relationship with God. I think you better start worrying about that. Like, does God know my name? Like, hey, knock, 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 it's me. And Jesus says, hey, who the fuck are you? Ain't that a bitch? Hey, like this. Hey, let's do a test for the priesthood. Does God know the priest on a first name basis? Okay, priest, get the fuck out. God don't know you, because he don't know your name. Get the fuck out. Like, prove it. Prove that God knows your name. Like, this is the test for the priesthood. Does God fucking know your name? Have you been like giving him delightful comics and shit? Or get the fuck out, right? Because you're a mortal sin. He don't even know your name. So anyway, as a matter of fact, so like basically, why we got this church? Why we got the Ten Commandments? Okay, the problem is with anarchy. Yeah, there's perfect justice, but it don't make much society, right? So like the Ten Commandments are divinely handed down. It's not bullshit, right? So he said, hey, these are how we make a society, right? And we could have anarchy, and there's Adam and Eve and paradise and all that shit, but hey, like, to make a society, you gotta have these commands. You gotta have structure, right? So the whole church law and shit like that is like, basically, this is the ordained way to make a structured society. So like, that's the authority, right? It comes straight from God, but like in terms of in Terry's mind, the critical thing is, am I in good graces with God? If I'm in good graces with God, I don't even give a fuck what the Catholic priests say. Hey, Mr. Pope, go fuck yourself. If I'm talking to God and everything's cool, hey, fuck yourself. I give no shits. So like, you got to do your own conscience, right? You have an obligation to develop a conscience, and correct conscience, and you got to live according to that conscience, and that's what sin is. And like, hey, if my conscience is fine, I'll just ignore the priest. I am a fucking priest. I'm as high as I get, right? I just talk to God, right? Fuck it. So like, that's theology in a nutshell, right? So are you allowed to go fuck people? Well, he did give these. He's been telling me not to do adultery, and he did give these commandments. So anyway, you got to follow your conscience. So there you go.